Okay, now I want to go to the audio sound bites here. The first hour of the program was devoted to a discussion of what happened in Belgium and why it's happening all over Europe. Just uncontrolled immigration of militant Islamists and terrorists combined with multiculturalism in all of these countries, which is destroying the native cultures of all of these European nations, which is done purposefully. Left-wing multiculturalism is aimed at destroying the culture of the host country it seeks to either conquer, overthrow, damage, or what have you. And it's happening here, folks. We've got a robust multicultural movement here, which is doing its best to discredit everything American it can. From the founding, even before that, to the discovery of this country, it tries to discredit. You know it as well as I do if you've got kids in school. So here we go to audio soundbite number 4 on the roster today. This happened on CNN this morning. Carol Costello speaking with the director of the George Washington University program on extremism. So we have an American college professor here. Actually, it's a think tank, I guess. The George Washington University program on extremism. And who do you think the extremists are, by the way? Take a wild guess who the extremists this guy is warning students about. And I'll guarantee you it's not militant Islamists. And I'll guarantee you it's not communists. And I'll guarantee you it's not dictators. And I'll guarantee you it's not totalitarians. No way. This guy, the extremism this guy is warning everybody of is right-wing hooligans. His name is Lorenzo Vadino. And CNN was asking him today about anti-immigrant protests in Brussels. And her question was this. Let's just talk first about what happened in Brussels with those right-wing protesters. Those protesters blamed the immigrants coming into Europe. Do you believe that they were just hit by a massive terror attack brought to you by ISIS, militant Islamists, at the capital of the European Union? We know the death toll. 26 people injured are still in the hospital. And these people want to focus on right-wing protests against it as somehow the problem? This is exactly why I spent the first hour of the program on this, and even some into the second hour. So her question, let's just talk first about what happened in Brussels with these right-wing. No, we're through talking about the terror event, I guess. Yeah, now we're going to move on to what was really important, the aftermath, the protests by anti-immigrant right-wingers. She says those protesters blame the immigrants coming into Europe. Is it right for them to place blame on the immigrants?
No, I mean, obviously, we're talking about a fringe group of people. These are soccer hooligans. As in most European countries, the soccer hooliganism scene is dominated by small right-wing groups. And these are people who create havoc every weekend in the stadiums. And obviously, they took advantage of the situation in Belgium as there were, in a way, gatherings which are very peaceful and sending a positive message. They hijacked what was happening over the weekend in Brussels and to make their political point.
You believe this? They hijacked a political event. They hijacked what happened. He won't even call it what it is. He won't say they hijacked the terror attack in Brussels to make their political point. And here you have very aristocratic-sounding European running a think tank at George Washington University on extremism. And obviously, we're talking about a fringe group of people, the soccer hooligans. As in most European countries, the soccer hooliganism scene is dominated by right-wing groups. And these are people who create havoc every weekend in the stadiums. We're not even talking about the Islamic terrorists. You see here, folks, you see who their real enemy is? I'm sorry for getting exercised about this, but this is exactly the kind of thing I feel it necessary to warn everybody about, because this is dangerously outrageous. What are we supposed to do after a terror attack? Just passively sit by and either not mention it or apologize, maybe even? Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe we should apologize and then ask Lorenzo Vadino to chair a seminar on why they hate us. And that would give ISIS and the Islamic terrorists a chance to say that they don't like these soccer hooligans. And the reason they blew up the European Union and the train station and the airport is because they're fed up with right-wingers at soccer games. And by this, we can reach a new level of mutual understanding and common ground with the... I mean, it's terribly, terribly wrong to blame the terrorists here, the immigrants. Terribly, terribly, terribly wrong to hijack unfortunate event there to make your political point. These people are going to be the death of Western civilization. They are going to be responsible for the death of Western civilization because they are willing to excuse terrorism in order to make their political point. This guy's obviously a flaming leftist, and in order to make his political point, he tolerates terrorism and then blames the fact that it happened on soccer hooligans. Well, that's the natural extension. If you're going to sit here and blame a post-terror attack anti-immigrant protest in this country, aren't the protesters, leftist protesters, aren't they idolized practically? Aren't they treated as heroes? They can be as militant as they want, and they can be as destructive as they want. Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter. They can tear up, they can destroy, they can wreak havoc, they can destroy private property, they can injure people, and they're heroes because they're advancing leftist causes. But you let people opposed to an out-of-control immigration policy, letting in essentially militant Islamic terrorists who then engage in militant Islamic terrorism, and somehow it's the fault of the right wing. Do not doubt me, folks, when I say we, conservatism, however that's defined in your limited government, low taxes, individual liberty, individual freedom, high standards of expectation, however you define it, we are the threat. We must be blamed for all the bad behavior in the world because we are so intolerant, don't you see? Yes, we're so intolerant. We're just not willing to let militant Islamic terrorists move into our countries and blow up things and kill people. And until we reach our enlightened state where we must let that happen because we understand why, we will always be considered the responsible parties. And that is exactly how they think. So I want you to listen to this again, keeping in mind everything I informed you about concerning what happened in Brussels and how. It's a combination of two things: uncontrolled immigration combined with multiculturalism, which is destroying the dominant native culture of all of these countries so that there is nothing to assimilate to. Immigrants can take over a country and make it their own, or the pockets of it that they live in and control, because leftists, liberals, in the name of whatever, equality, fairness, whatever the hell they talk about, they sit by and let that happen because it's inferior or it's xenophobic or, native culture nationalism is racism, is bigotry or whatever. So you listen to this guy again, this exalted, obviously so impressed with himself, highly educated, very sophisticated European professor at George Washington University tell us who's really to blame and what's really bad that's going on in Belgium.
No, I mean, obviously, we're talking about a fringe group of people. These are soccer hooligans. As in most European countries, the soccer hooliganism scene is dominated by small right-wing groups. And these are people who create havoc every weekend in the stadiums. And obviously, they took advantage of the situation in Belgium as there were, in a way, gatherings which are very peaceful and sending a positive message. They hijacked what was happening over the weekend in Brussels and to make their political point.
Well, what happened was a terror attack with multiple deaths. People protested it. That speaks for itself. And by the way, there's something else in this. Here you have a European, obviously somebody who thinks he's an elite. You can tell it in the way he speaks. You can tell it in his inflections. You can tell it, folks. It's dripping. This guy's an elitist. He's a very exclusive member of a rare club of people. And who are the real hooligans where he lives? Soccer fans, football fans, the working class, the people who actually go to these barbaric contests, these oversized stadia, and watch violence actually take place on the field and applaud it while guzzling their cheap lager. It's so beneath us. And then these hooligans, after getting their fill of soccer and being primed for violence, leave the stadia and create violent protests. It's despicable. It's beneath us. He hates these serfs. And that's who they are. And it's the same view from the top here, folks. Maybe bowling instead of soccer. Maybe NASCAR instead of soccer. Maybe football instead of, who knows, maybe a combination of all three, but it's the same thing here. Back in just a second.